Hi, I'm Brittany. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason because what's meant to be will be. My life has proved that to me time and time again, and me standing here before you today is just more proof. In August of 2018, I moved my life from Florida to an apartment in Windsor Locks. My very first apartment completely on my own. Adjusting to my new life here took some time, and after about 8 months, I was finally able to get around town without using my GPS. As luck would have it, 1 month later, my landlord informed me he was selling the building and I needed to move. Moving in general sucks, but moving less than 1 year after you just moved 1,200 miles away from everything you knew really sucks. Not only was I stressed about having to find a new apartment, but I was also stressed about moving to a completely new town after finally getting accustomed to the one I was already in. I dreaded it, but nonetheless booked my tour to view the only apartment available that I was even remotely interested in, mainly because it had in-unit laundry. Less than 10 months after I arrived in Connecticut, I was settled into my new apartment in Manchester. Little did I know then, I was exactly where I was supposed to be.
You needed that.
Yes. One day I get home from work, shower, and I'm about to sit down to eat dinner when I hear a knock at my door. Not expecting anyone, I wasn't sure who it would be. When I open my door and right in front of me stands a stranger. Given that the door 2 feet in front of me was also open, I conclude this must be my new neighbor. "Hey, I'm Terry," this man in front of me says. "Hi Terry, I'm Brittany, nice to meet you." We give a little handshake before he begins talking again. "I'm your neighbor, I live right here." He points to the door behind him. "How you like it here so far?" "Oh, it's not too bad. I actually just moved to Connecticut a few months ago, so it's a pain I had to move again so quickly. Although my other apartment's laundry was in the basement outside, so it's cool to have laundry right here." "You know, I've lived here for over 20 years, he replies back, seemingly dismissing everything I just said. "Oh yeah? That's a long time." "Yeah, I used to drive trucks, so I didn't spend as much time here. Now I'm back though. Here, come in," he says as he turns around and walks towards the door of the apartment. Now, when I was a kid, I was in Girl Scouts. My dad and I used to go door to door in our neighborhood to get sales. Many of the houses we went to were elders. They'd always invite us in while they grabbed their check or their cash, but we never went inside. The first time I was asked, I went to take a step forward and my dad grabbed me by the shoulder and said, "You do not walk into strangers' houses." Now, of course, I was only doing it because he was there, but nonetheless, the lesson was learned. Fast forward roughly 13 years, and this situation seems very similar. Here I am, a young, very petite girl, being invited into a taller, grown man's house. Now, I like to think I'm a pretty good judge of character, and the vibes I'm getting from this guy seem pretty genuine, right? But I'm sure that's what Ted Bundy's victims thought too. So I'm still standing in my doorway because I haven't taken a step yet, sizing this dude up and down, talking myself through my decision in my head while he's standing there probably wondering why the hell I haven't come in yet. Yeah, he's a little taller than me. I am pretty short, but I'm younger, probably faster. I do live 2 feet away, so it's not like I'd have far to go if I did have to escape. But if he is fast, this apartment's not very big, so I don't know if I'll have time to get out. I could probably take this guy, though, if I had to. He's older. He'd be no match for me. I could win in a fight, right? When he's had enough, he just turns around and walks further into the apartment, yelling, "You coming or what?" I think for a moment, telling myself he's just a genuine, old-school guy trying to get to know his new neighbor. He's probably not crazy. He's probably not a killer. But my gut is probably right. But if not, damn are my parents going to be so disappointed in me. I decided to trust my gut and hope for the best as I walked into his apartment. Of course, I didn't close either of our doors, just in case I needed to get away fast. My little 5-foot self would at least be putting up a fight. Terry walks me through his apartment, talking about how the previous guy and him always left their back porch doors unlocked so either of them could come and go as they please. Mental note, make sure porch door is always locked. He points to a closet. "You smoke weed? This is where my weed is. You ever want some? You just come and help yourself. You don't even gotta ask. What's mine is yours. We're neighbors. You hungry and got no food? Come over and help yourself. The guy before you used to always come in here and grab stuff from my fridge." He is going on and on about how close him and this last guy were, and all I can think is, did this guy kill the other guy? Is he telling me how close they were to build trust with me, get my guard down just so he can get me when I least expect it? Or is he for real? He's still walking in front of me, completely oblivious to the fact that I'm running scenarios through my head of whether or not I should take him before he tries to take me. He's vulnerable right now and would never see it coming, but I decided to continue trusting my gut. Little did we know then, but that was the start of a journey and a relationship that would last a lifetime. A few months later, I'd be lying in bed when I hear banging on my door. I open it to find Terry standing in front of me, telling me he needs to go to the hospital. I'd bring him, get him all checked in, tell the hospital staff I was his neighbor, and then use his phone to call Tareen and Chantel to give them the update. Terry would begin to call me his white daughter and himself my black daddy. When he'd talk to Tareen and Chantel on the phone, he'd say hey to your sister, or he'd tell me, hey, grab my phone and call your sister for me. A few months after that, I'd hear a faint knock at my door. Terry had crawled from his apartment to mine to come knock because he needed to go to the hospital again. I'd bring him, get him checked in, listen to him tell the hospital staff I was his daughter, which brought on a lot more questions, then use his phone to call Tareen and Chantel to give them the update. When he got back home, he demanded I give him my phone number because a call or text is much quicker than crawling and knocking. And God forbid I didn't hear him or he couldn't get to me quick enough. I had casually saved his life a few times over the course of a year when Tareen made the decision to move back home. It's crazy when you talk to someone on the phone so many times to finally meet them in person. Terry couldn't have been more excited for two of his daughters to meet. It didn't take long before we all became family. Days and nights spent together, family gatherings, jokes galore. Sometimes Terry would feel like Tareen and I were ganging up on him. Then we'd just throw it back in his face that he started this. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. Terry was something else. He'd call asking me to smuggle him cigarettes or sodas because Tareen was mean and I was his nice daughter. Text me to come see him so I could change his login passwords for the millionth time or get his games to work again. Yell at the hospital staff when they questioned me being his daughter until I just started saying I was his stepdaughter because that has less questions. He'd make me sit and watch plane routes and Amtraks fly and drive all over as he reminisced of his days on the road, or beg that his hamburger ferry would come while he was in the hospital starving, even though he'd kick me out of his room shortly after I got there. I've only known Terry 5 years, but those 5 years are filled with a lot. Tareen jokes that I moved away from my whole family just to end up taking care of an old man, but honestly, I wouldn't have had it any other way. If I knew in 2019 what I know now in 2024, I wouldn't have been so upset and stressed about having to move again. One inconvenience changed my whole life because there's no such thing as coincidences. I may have lost my first apartment all on my own, but I gained so much more. Another dad, another sister, an entire family, one that I couldn't imagine my life without. All because a friendly neighbor invited me into his house and into his life with wide open arms while I was contemplating if he was a killer. I love Terry. He truly was family. Anytime my family or friends would visit from Florida, I made sure they paid Terry a visit, even when he wasn't feeling one. It's hard wanting to help someone and take away their pain and not being able to. Terry used to tell me, you and Noah better buy a damn house soon because I can't take these stairs no more. And despite our offers to carry him up and down, or me trying to convince him we could get a slide, he was stuck in his way, doing it on his own but bitching the whole time about it. I'm sure my experience with Terry was different than all of yours, but I was meant to be there for him in this way. And even though the last few months were hard, nothing makes me happier than knowing his last week Earthside was filled with family, love, and laughter. I love Terry, and he'll have a piece of my heart forever. I'm forever grateful for the time I did have with him and the family he gave me. While I'm sad to see him go, I'm at peace knowing he's free of pain, sadness, and discomfort. So until we meet again, Terry, may you be driving all over heaven with the absolute best view there is.
That was awesome.